What's up, everybody? Back again with another off-season interview. This time, I am joined by Lone Star Disc's newest player, Mr. Robert Burridge. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Monsoon season is officially over in San Francisco, so I can see the sun again. It's a good day. Where are you this off-season, though? I've been, perusing your Instagram, and it looks like all over the place.
I've been around, I think is the best way to describe it. Right now I'm based out of Houston, where I went to high school, living, with my parents currently until the tour starts. So I'm happy to be somewhere where it's warm.
Yes, and Houston in Texas, obviously, and the sweatshirt in which you're wearing has an indication of Texas as well. It's something I definitely wanted to talk about. Well, I guess talk about your new sponsor, and I'll get to maybe the Texas connection here in a sec.
Yeah, so my new sponsor is Lone Star Disc. They are, I guess, a really sort of blossoming, I guess is a good word for it, company. They're really, getting out there, and it's awesome to see. And they're really good people. They have great molds, great plastic, and I'm just excited that I'm able to support them and be sponsored by them this year.
No, 100%. It's actually like really refreshing. It's always a fun conversation to have with folks that are like getting their, you were with Innova last year, but I would imagine it was like kind of a starter sponsorship situation. But now this is kind of that first big like contract signing. Does this, you said you're living taking the off season with your parents. Does that like legitimize what you're doing to your parents? Like, how do you feel on the inside? Like these people wanted to sign you.
I think they were a little bit skeptical, as were my grandparents, about me doing this, and being able to say like, look, I'm able to do this, and I can do this without much, trouble, because I have these awesome people, these awesome companies supporting me. And it really did sort of legitimize it to them, because it was like, if he wants to do this, he can do this, and it's not as questionable to them anymore.
No, 100%. A lot of times with family, it comes down to the dollar signs, because it's like very
Mhm.
real job that you're passing up, I would assume, in some other sector to come do this. So it's good at least like every day they're a little bit more supportive of the whole thing. I'm sure they support you in general. But let's talk about the contract and the deal. Like, how did it come to
Mhm.
bouts? Did you approach them? Did they approach you? How did that all come?
So I think so. I'm really good friends with Chandler Kramer. He was sponsored by him last year. I
Hmm.
met him a few years ago before he was sponsored I think at a Bill and Ted tournament in Conroe.
Okay.
And that was a good meeting of him. I played against him in college 2 years ago at this point.
Mm.
So I saw him out there. He was playing for Texas A&M. I was playing for Michigan. Um, we still have never been on a card together, which is
That's
insane.
crazy.
But so I met him. He was like, "Hey, check out this company," and it was very cool because I got to actually meet, I think, Josh Hofstra, which is the shrugging guy on the internet.
Hmm.
Um, I met him at Worlds, I think, because I was
Mm.
I was basically sharing a hotel room with Chandler because we were pretty good friends. And so I met most of the guys there, and really, started talking about next season, because I just had Worlds, and I think I had maybe Green Mountain, and then I had USDGC. So I just had those three left. And so I was getting prepared for the next season. Like, I was starting to reach out to companies. I was starting to receive some. I was figuring out what I wanted to do for the next year. And then from there, we talked more at USDGC,
Mm.
because they had a full tent set up there as well. Um, but then in the off season, really started talking to them more, especially being down in Texas. They're only like their factory is an hour from my house, so it's right there.
Oh, that's cake.
But they're really great people. At something I really appreciated was, very personal connection with them.
Yeah, and it really feels like this year they're taking that next step in like brand recognition and trying to have their name seen, by more than just, you know, Chandler, great guy, had a great European Open tournament, but like not necessarily the one to be at the top on video all the time, like repping the brand. Now they have a fleet of players. Like, was that something they brought to you? Like, we're looking to expand our team, or did that just kind of happen just because a bunch of people wanted to be on the team and it worked? Was this like a plan for them to sponsor a lot of players?
So I'm not entirely sure of that. I don't think I can get inside their head
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was something that they were like, hey, let's give, sponsorships a shot. And when it worked out with Chandler and Leah,
Mm-hmm.
who's on the board of representatives, I think, for the players,
Mm-hmm.
it was, it was a good step for them to be like, this is a legitimate thing to do. And so I think with that success, they were able to go into the next step this year, being like, hey, let's see how far we can go.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that little media week or weekend or 10 days or how it seemed like it was going on forever. The Lone Star Disc kind of media and team gathering. Talk about that. Where was it? Who was all there? What were the vibes?
So that was in Conroe. It was basically at the factory, around courses
Mm.
at the factory. We did a ton of video stuff for upcoming, I guess, videos and like little tidbits. I'm not sure how much they want me to say on that, so I'm not going to try.
Uh-huh.
Um, but all these people are announced at this point. So there was Nico Emerson, both carries, um, Lisa, Leah, Chandler, and the tour team that, and like some of the tour teams,
Mm-hmm.
so not touring pros. So there was like, I don't know if you know these guys, some of the Texas natives may, but Charlie Moore, Jaden Rye, Chris Farnham, and I'm sure I'm gonna forget at least like
Inevitably.
one person, but the whole team was there, and it was really fun to get to meet them and form some connections.
And that's something that like a lot of players they haven't necessarily gone through is like the little media carousel circus that can happen at a media week. Like last year at the All-Star event, we had like a 2-day media extravaganza, sit-down interview, B-roll, fancy lights, doing poses with discs. Like, did that feel did that feel like natural to you, or was that like, okay, I am posing and I'm very stiff, what am I doing? Like, how did that feel for you on the inside?
I think there's a little bit of everything going on. There's always a little bit being like, am I doing this right? I have no clue what's going on.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I learned from, classes, presentation in college and high school, just, do your best and
Yeah.
it'll all work out one way or another.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. Classic, right?
Exactly.
Um, what kind of new discs are you or have you found? Like, I don't know a ton of the lineup, but I know specifically like the Texas Berg, that armadillo that I've heard people talk a lot about. Are there any new discs that you've fiddled around with and got your hands on that you're really going to be liking going into next year?
Yes. So one of my best discs this season is going to be the Mockingbird.
Ooh.
I think it was their third disc approved. It's like 7.6 -2.1. So it's a little more understable. It's like a leopardish type disc.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I naturally have a little bit of a hyzer flip on my backhand, so it's pretty darn comfortable for me to be able to hit gaps with.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes so far. It just glides forever.
So, okay, answer I don't know if there was ever an official answer on this. Were you the person that threw over 500 feet with that disc that the LSD posted that about?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, that was great. That was so funny. The internet was having fun with that one too. Everybody
I
was
was
going
having
back
fun
and
with
forth.
it too.
Yeah, 500 feet with a leopardy type disc. That sounds fun. What can I say? Um,
Oh yeah.
so this past season, correct me if I'm wrong, because I very well could be. You finished college, correct?
I finished college about a month ago.
Yeah. Okay, so like talk about that transition. Did you play your last was there an ultimate season like after disc golf, or talk about your how you transitioned out of ultimate now?
So absolutely it was a transition. So there was USDGC, which is early October,
Hmm.
as it commonly is. And then after that, I think I had three, maybe two ultimate tournaments between then and the end of the year. And that was it was cool because I was finally like one of the guys that I was really trying to teach some of the freshman class, which we had a lot of. And it was cool because it was it was my final year, final little like preseason, I guess, and
Hmm.
it was just great being able to do that and be like, I'm just enjoying it and not worrying about, much else at this point.
Yeah, it's probably a very like freeing feeling. Like, so by the sounds of it, you said you had a lot of freshmen. My guess, you had a lot of seniors the year before. You're probably pretty good, and this year a lot less talented of a squad overall, just because freshman to senior.
I think we lost a good amount of our seniors. I think we took a lot of fresh faces, either from Bagnum, which is like the reserve team,
Hmm.
or just new freshmen. And
Magnum and
so,
Bagdom.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
bad. That's hilarious though. Sorry, I
It was
just.
really, the jerseys are even better. Let me tell you something. Um, but yeah, so we had a lot of fresh faces, and so I really did take on a little more of a coaching role where I was like, hey,
Hmm.
try setting up like this, try this pose, try this throw if you're in this situation, look early, look, I was way more in that teaching role than I had been, and it was awesome.
Did people like in the program know about your it's not like you won 5 events on tour and were like, oh my gosh, this is the second coming of Paul Macbeth. But like, you had a very successful year on tour relative to like your first year on tour, and you're clearly committed to doing it again. Was your team and ultimate and squad like, were they all familiar with your journey in disc golf?
So by the end of the year, they were. um, so we had a little spreadsheet where it was like post, if you're going to practice, if you're not, like have a reason basically. And by the end of the year, I'd just be like, I'm not going. You guys know why. So
Common knowledge.
they knew what was going on, and it was I usually did field work either just before or just after practice,
Hmm.
and that was something that they all supported too, which I was very appreciative of.
What was and this is, I'll end the ultimate talk at this point, but I have a lot of friends in San Francisco who, since the pandemic, have started playing disc golf a lot more and slowly are like transitioning from like, an entire ultimate season and a little disc golf to like a lot of disc golf and a little ultimate. What was that? You said you did like field work after practice. I mean, talking to them, it's a very different experience to throw an ultimate frisbee versus a disc like a destroyer or some, ridiculously overstable thing.
So it's absolutely a change, and I learned it from my dad, who did the
Mm,
same thing. He also played college ultimate at Michigan, as did my mom, honestly.
wow.
Um, Long story short, they were both very good club players, and my mom went to Worlds a few times.
No
So
biggie. Runs in the
disc
family.
family, disc family. Um, but it is very different, and I learned very quickly that the more you transition back and forth, the easier it is. So I was
Interesting.
transitioning back and forth since about middle school, like maybe eighth grade was when I
Oh wow.
started like that little bit of back and forth, not nearly as much as I did in college, but started that, this is how you change your throws, and it just becomes a different feeling for each throw. And it's a nice spot to be once you're like, I have an ultimate disc in my hand, this is how I throw it.
Hmm. No, it's so interesting. It's actually something I didn't know. I didn't realize you had been playing disc golf for so long. Like I knew that you were a former ultimate player, actually a current ultimate player at that point. But I think the assumption is just a relatively new convert. But it makes sense. I mean, you can sling a disc. You probably have been playing for a while.
Yeah,
Um,
my
Go ahead.
dad used to take me out just to like play with like a DX shark, I think. And just be like, go have fun. I'm gonna throw my bag of star T-Rexes or whatever he had. And then I didn't play seriously at all until like 11th grade, I think.
Mm. Okay, then like the tournament, the bug for competing started to get a little bit.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then COVID hit, and that was sort of the end of it.
fair. Um, what are we? moving into next year, this next season, what are you going to be traveling in? That's the question I like to ask a lot of people. Like, are we going to see an upgrade in the tour rig? Are we going like Prius and just roll the seat back and sleep? What are we going to be driving in?
So Lone Star was very generous. They provided Chandler and I with a van actually, which we're gonna pimp out, pimp out. Um, and we're gonna make some renovations, throw some beds in there, have as much storage as possible, and just
hmm
roll with it all around the country.
Wow. So, like traditional Ford Transit, like Ram ProMaster style, big Sprinter style van.
Sprinter style van, yeah.
Wow. So 2 beds, 2 people in one van. Are we talking bunk beds? Are we talking? I mean, that's like a lot of human in a van.
It is, but neither of us take up a ton of space to be honest.
Yeah, me and you both, man.
But yeah, we'll figure it out. We're setting it up in the next few weeks, so it'll be good.
No, that's awesome. So by the sounds of it, Lone Star is, stepping up and taking care of you guys. Are there any like discs in the work? Is your name going to be on anything? I don't know how exactly their sponsorship tiers work with Innova and the other bigger ones. It's like a little clear cut. You're on this team, you get this disc. So like, how does that work for you? What are they doing to support? I mean, they got you the van. That's huge.
Oh yeah, they having a van is huge for this next year. And then on support, they're giving discs that we can sell just in
hmm
general, which will be a nice secondary income.
hmm
And then getting, basically a tour series as well is going to be massive for me.
Nice. That's what I love to hear, man. And I would imagine like the first time a player gets their disc, it's got to be like, oh man, just like so many times you're throwing, and there's all these names you see on the disc: Nate Doss, Buzz, right? Paul McBeth, this and
Hmm.
this, Simon Lizotte, that. But like to have your name, like, is that a monumental moment for you, or is that just like one of many?
It really was sort of that like I'm about to have a tour series. Wow. It's a big moment. I thought maybe one day it would happen. I never imagined it would be this soon though.
Yeah. Um, One reason that you might have gotten that disc is you were the PDGA Rookie of the Year this past year. I think in general the headlines go to like the DGPT Rookie of the Year these days, but the PDGA Rookie of the Year, that's like you're on the list of winners with a lot of very talented players. Is that something that you were working for throughout the year or paying attention to in any way, or did you just play a bunch of tournaments and it worked out that way?
So I played I think a third of the tour
hmm
in total, like at most. Um, and just getting a few good finishes to get points on there, you needed so A tier, top three, or good finishes at Elite Series, Major, Silver Series, basically.
Yeah.
And so I had Des Moines, which helped a lot, and then I won an A tier earlier in the year. So those two combined sort of popped me up past
Mm.
anybody else. I actually didn't know it was a thing until someone posted about it and was like, "Hey, look at these two people and like winning." And I was like, "What is this?"
Wow. Okay. Maybe a testament to the PDGA. I don't know. I think Luke was the same way. Like Luke Humphreys, when he won it, he was like on tour all year, and there was a kid in a random place like winning a bunch of A tiers, and he was like getting seventh at a major, and the kid with the A tier. Anyway, it was a whole thing. So it is a weird like way of winning, but. I mean, hey, that's a pin in your cap, man. That's your rookie of the year. You can't take that away, right?
Absolutely. And I'm, very thankful to be able to say I am, thankful to for the opportunity to do what I love and to have that.
So was that along with, you mentioned it, your Des Moines finish? That's something I definitely want to like talk about just a little bit. I'd be remiss if I left it out. Were those like things helpful in the contract negotiating? Was like your Des Moines finish something that put you on a lot of these people's radars? Do you even know like if that affected it a lot?
I would assume it affected it a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I think what I heard from a lot of people was the stump, basically that whole thing happening, and
Yeah.
just sort of rolling with it, being like, it happens. it was very easy, or would have been very easy to be like, man, I got screwed out of
Hmm.
whatever because of whatever. And I was just like, what happens? That's disc golf, and next time.
No, it totally is. I want to, now that we're a few months after that, or past that, I should say,
Hmm.
looking back, the emotions, it was, I mean, speaking for myself, I was like the most tired I was the entire season on like hole 3 of that playoff. The day before was so long, everybody had to play, most of the MPO played 2 rounds. Uh,
Hmm.
then we come back on Sunday, full round of FPO, full round of MPO, and then you guys have one of the most epic playoffs I've ever been a part of. Looking back on that, is that something that like you smile looking back on, or is that something that you like looking back on? Like, how does that sit with you months afterwards?
So I think it's both, honestly. Like I look back and I'm obviously, very thankful that it happened. It's something that I will forever remember. Um, and at the same time, I look back and I'm like, I want to be in a spot this next season or in seasons to come where it's not going to be close enough to where something like that can decide it.
Hmm. No, I love it. I love it. I mean, it's you can go 2 ways with that, right? It's like you can fly too close to the sun, and then get burnt a little bit, or it can like fuel you to jump right back in there and get even, win by 3. You're right,
Yeah.
make birdie 17, and then just the whole thing never even happens.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to this upcoming year a little bit. You're going to be driving around with Chandler in the van. I imagine a big Lone Star disc slapped all over it, kind of like Leah was driving. Yeah, last
Oh
year.
yeah.
Um, do you have any goals? Do you have any like? Are you a goal writer downer? I talked with Valerie Monduhano. She's definitely a goal setter. Other people are just like, I want to birdie every hole I see. How do you look at your season? How do you project going forward?
So with basically any player except maybe like Paul and Ricky, but they're just freaks of nature. Um, you get, the season, there will be good points, there'll be bad points, there'll be ups and downs. And so my goal is to just continue to enjoy what I'm doing because not everyone gets this chance.
No, it's a great point. It's like it's actually funny though. You have generally, like, not to say you fall into one of those categories, one of these 2 categories. We have like the 2 people on tour. You have the people who are like, I'm gonna win. All I care about is being a champion. Everything else by the wayside. And then you have the other half, which is like, you know what? How many people in their lives get to say they get to travel around the country, throwing discs for a living, and just like, going to the Grand Canyon, going to national parks. So like, would you say you find yourself more in that second category or the first category? Because like by the answer to Des Moines one, that would seem to slide into the first category.
I mean, it's some people are very much one and not the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I, again, why not be both? I want to enjoy what I do, but at the same time, I want to win it. I want to
Mm-hmm.
win on the biggest stage, and that's something that pushes me. It's why I have a basket in the backyard. It's why I'm going somewhere to play today.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it?
No, 100% correct. How about the tour? Are you doing a full? Are you like starting in Vegas and ending in theory in the Pro Tour Championships out in the Charlotte area? Are you hitting every single one?
My plan is to hit every single one.
Wow, warrior. How does that like when you think about it in your head? Do you look forward to 8 months in a van, like going to laundromats on Monday and like doing that whole thing?
There's this is my first time, on tour. I've been in school so far. Luckily, I'm touring with someone who's been through it, so he
Mm-hmm.
sort of knows the ropes. And we'll see how it goes. I think I'll enjoy it. I think I'll enjoy some parts more than I think. I think I will utterly hate other parts, but you know what? That's how it is.
Yeah, no, 100%. I can tell you there will definitely be a night in a van sweating somewhere that is going to be miserable. That is like the one guarantee of tour life. Like at least one, you find yourself in one of those nights.
Oh yeah.
Uh, well, Robert, that's pretty much all I have on my list for this interview. But I wanted to give you a chance. you're new with a new company, fresh face on tour. You're going to be here all year long, so hopefully people are going to get to know you. But do you have anything to say to the folks, the fans, all the people out there in YouTube land?
So really, all I have to say is, I appreciate everything that the fans have done for the sport, everything they've done for me. I wouldn't be playing if it wasn't for the support this sport has, for the support or for the growth that disc golf is getting. And I am just extremely, extremely grateful for all the fans, all the support. If you ever see me, feel free to come say hi. I'm happy to meet new people.
No, 100%, man. You nailed it. The support the disc golf community and just like the disc golf world has as a whole to like let all of us, me, you, all of us out there, like do what we want and live the dream that we want to is like, man, life changing. Gives me like chillies just even thinking about it, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's about all I have for this interview, though. Again, Robert, like, thank you so much for your time. You didn't have to do this, but you did. So thank you again. And for all of you at home, if you would like coverage of all things disc golf, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel.